Hello and welcome. This is Bill Pomares from bandsolution.net. The purpose of this video is to give a solid browse through my book entitled Essential Studies for Orchestra Book 1. I'm not an orchestra teacher, but I have written several method books for band, and I thought this would translate nicely to orchestra with some modifications. I developed this book with the help of Alyssa Jutting, who is a great violin instructor and one of the current orchestra directors in Norwich, New York. As I'm not an orchestra teacher, no attempt has been made to address the specifics of instrumental technique. I figure this is best left up to the professionals in this area, namely you folks. And since there are many different approaches for developing technique, I figured this would actually make it easier for the directors if I left this information out so you can instruct it your way, or the way that you have found works best for you and your students, instead of trying to adapt something that I've written which may or may not serve your needs. This book is probably similar to most orchestra method books that are currently available in terms of the learning sequence. The book is written as unison full orchestra exercises, a group book as opposed to an individual instrument method. I suspect that for most school programs this would serve as a 2-year book. The learning sequence is organized by notes and rhythms. It begins with notes on one string at a time and then gradually adds the strings together. Each time a new rhythm concept is introduced, the notes that are used revert to the most basic and familiar group of notes for the orchestra so that the students can concentrate on the rhythmic aspect. I've tried to be very thorough in this book. Whenever there is a new concept introduced, there is a lot of practice given with the new concept. In my experience, a common flaw of method books is that they don't give enough practice with a concept before moving on to a new one. There are songs given for practice that incorporate that new concept so that students can see how it's used in a real song situation. Where possible, I have included familiar melodies to help the student. I've also tried to avoid introducing multiple concepts simultaneously. My experience has been that students become confused and frustrated trying to incorporate multiple concepts at once. The book is available for violin, viola, and cello/bass. There is no conductor score or book to go with this series, but you can conduct from whatever instrument book you're most comfortable reading when you use this with your group. The table of contents with keys, rhythms, and concepts is posted on my website on the Essential Studies Orchestra page under Music and Methods. You can download the file and print it if you wish to follow along here so you can see how the book is laid out. So, after the table of contents, there's a practice sheet which you may or may not use depending on how your program is structured. There's also a product support passcode for future sheets that I develop that correlate with this book. Practice methods, basically like how to practice. Starts off with a rhythm sheet. This way they can get going on one string, developing basic technique. Just reading rhythms and playing them together as a group, regardless of worrying about what note it is necessarily. You can have them stick to one string. Some beginning notes start with the D and the A string, and then a full page of notes, D's and E's in unison for the whole group, just so they can get the practice going back and forth between the two and reading them in the music. Taking the E and moving on to F sharp, and then page 3 is a 3-note combination page, D, E, and F sharp. Page 12 is another combination page, 3 notes. Page 13 adds the G note on the same string. And then page 14 is a 4-note combination page. Page 15 adds the A in combination with G. And then page 16 is a 5-note combination page. Page 7 gives a few exercises using the 5-note scale, starting on D. And then we're into songs. Actually, by the time you're done with the 3-note combos, you can really begin the first 3 songs here because they're 3-note songs. Exercise 15 adds the B, which will be a new note for them at this point. More songs, very familiar ones. Try to keep it easy. And then adding the C sharp with some familiar songs, and then finally the high D, again with familiar songs. Scale patterns in D, this time extending it all the way up a full octave, and then full octave songs in D. Then moving on to the G string, exercises in G, get them moving around on that string. 5-note scale, and then 5-note songs in G, so they can apply that to song situations. And the scale patterns in G, much like I had the scale patterns in D earlier, same exact patterns, but now in G, and then extending up a full octave in exercise 5 and beyond. Page 31 is full octave songs in G, same songs as presented in D earlier, just now translating it so they get comfortable starting on the G string. Slurs, connecting notes, starting on one string and then eventually combining them. Page 33 adds the F natural, gives 5 exercises, and then ends with familiar songs that incorporate that note. Same concept using the C natural, so just taking that concept and just applying it to a different string. And then we're into scale patterns in C, starting off with 5-note patterns, and then towards the end of the page, exercises 5 through 8, extending the full octave. Songs in C major, 2 pages of these, so they get comfortable using that F natural in there, C natural up top. Then we're into introducing dotted quarter notes. The dotted quarter 8th pattern is a pattern that usually requires a fair amount of practice in my experience, so there's a lot of practice here. 19 exercises total, so ones that explain it to begin with, and then songs where they apply the concept. And most of these songs are pretty familiar to most students. Then introducing 8th rests. The first 5 exercises, the rest appears on beat 3. Exercises 6 through 10, the rest appears on beat 2. 11 through 15 on the next page, the rest appears on beat 4. And then 16 through 20, the rest appears on beat 1. Again, on these 2 pages, we're back to the most basic notes to keep it simple so that they can focus on the rhythmic aspect without having to worry about, C naturals or F naturals or anything like that. Page 42, songs that use the 8th rests, and then a basic march written as a trio called the Boom Chick March. Again, familiar notes, familiar keys. More practice sheet space, and that's it. If your students require extra sight reading practice with the concepts developed in this book, I highly recommend the companion book for this method entitled Reading Exercises for Orchestra Book 1. This book correlates rhythm and key studies exactly to this method book. There are 299 unison one-line exercises that give extra practice with the concepts introduced in this Essential Studies book. So if you like what you see here and you think you can use this to some advantage with your first and second year orchestra, you can download order forms from my website, bandsolution.net, and order a set using a purchase order, or you can have your school district pay for them using a credit card through the PayPal links provided on the site. Thanks for checking this out, and good luck.